Welcome to the NVUSD Future in Focus podcast. It really leads me to a question or thinking about how we measure success.
I really feel like true success goes beyond performing well on a test or an essay or performance task. You really begin to witness this very genuine and authentic light bulb moments. This district-supported professional development has been the most impactful in building literacy capacity and supporting implementation of effective research-based practices system-wide.
Can you take us back to the moment that you decided to become an educator? Welcome to the NVUSD Future in Focus podcast, where we explore what it takes to cultivate a confident, compassionate, and adaptable graduate here in Napa Valley. I'm Dr. Rosanna Mucetti, Superintendent of the Napa Valley Unified School District.
And I'm Dr. Peter Abboud, Executive Director of Research Data and Assessment. In this series, we amplify student and staff voices, strengthen community connections, and spotlight strong teaching and learning across our schools, all through the lens of being and becoming future ready.
Today, we are joined by someone who lives that mission every single day here in NVUSD, Katy Bell. She is a dedicated teacher on special assignment here in the Napa Valley Unified School District, and we can't wait to hear about the ways that you support learning in the classroom. Katy, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Mucetti. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Well, let's start, Katy, with the why. Can you take us back to the moment that you decided to become an educator, and what keeps you grounded in the classroom today?
Yeah, definitely. When I reflect on this question, I really realize that I've always had a strong pull towards teaching and mentorship. From teaching dance in my hometown studio to babysitting to being a nanny in high school, working with children has really been a meaningful part of my life. And however, it really wasn't until my first year of becoming an educator that I really understand my own why. I began my teaching career teaching kindergarten. And as anyone who's taught kindergarten knows, the beginning of the year is much like a whirlwind. You have a wide range of skills, personalities, and experiences that are all coming into the classroom for the first time. But yet, as the year unfolds, something really remarkable happens. You really begin to witness this very genuine and authentic light bulb moments that are happening with 5-year-olds and making these connections and really are starting to really truly get it. And these moments are really incredibly fulfilling and motivating.
Wow.
Not only is it rewarding to see my own efforts as a teacher come to fruition with student growth and achievement, but really having students really develop their own ownership of their learning. It's really what is pushing me, continually motivating me as an educator, and really has grounded me in why I chose this profession.
Love that, Katy.
Yeah, and those aha moments that those kids have can be just so incredibly powerful. So as a practitioner today, what is one thing about your daily work that you wish the general public understood better? Because being a teacher is a very hard job, and unless you've done it before, there's a lot of mystery behind it. So what do you wish people would know about
I
you
wish they knew how incredibly hard it was. I think many people do not fully understand this delicate balancing act that teachers are facing every day between planning these ideal lessons and what the realities are really happening in the classroom every single day. And I think what appears to be simple from the outside is really, in fact, extremely nuanced and complex. I think teachers are responsible for so many things: developing lesson plans, teaching standards, delivering grade level curriculum, maintaining pacing, and providing academic support to students, administering assessments, all while really responding to in these real-time situations that can really disrupt all your plans. And as many teachers know, no 2 days in the 180 days of school unfold the same way. I think it's really important to note that within a classroom, students arrive with diverse cultures, home lives, experiences, customs, and really levels of exposure. And as a result, teachers are not only educators, they're mentors, they're counselors, they're instructors, they're mediators. And I think they really become these experts at reading the room because they know exactly when to adjust, when to intervene, and when to support in every single moment of the day. And I think teachers really face this near impossible task of ensuring that students are having the tools and the knowledge they need to learn, while also simultaneously creating these environments where students feel supported, understood, and capable.
Yes. There's so much to attune to, right?
Yes.
All day long. And then there's the focus on academics, but then of course we have to make sure that it's a welcoming learning environment for students. So I'm so grateful that you so could so clearly articulate the complexity that teachers confront day in and day out.
I think teachers make something like over 1,000 decisions a day just
Totally.
in response to what's happening around them. So that's pretty incredible.
Yes.
Definitely.
Real world problem solvers all day
Absolutely.
long. So, I love your dedication. I can hear it when you talk. To meeting students where they are and supporting them as they learn. I'd now like to just shift a bit and talk about literacy and focus on literacy with you, given your professional expertise, the work that you're doing at McPherson Elementary. How are you evolving the instruction at McPherson to meet the diverse needs of our students? And are there any specific shifts in practice that have yielded surprising results as you make those shifts in your own instructional approach?
I love this question because this is kind of where I live right now. I'm currently the literacy coach at McPherson and have served in this position for the last 2.5 years. And I think this has really given me a unique perspective and lens on how I'm approaching literacy as a system-wide approach, as well as really ensuring that we're giving students the support they need for positive literacy outcomes. I think one significant shift I've made is how we approach literacy instruction just overall. And I think a critical step in this process has been this LETRS training that we've all really gone through at this point. This 2-year journey has really fundamentally changed how I think about literacy instruction and has monumentally made drastic impacts at McPherson.
Wow.
I think implementing a direct explicit phonics instruction has really brought much needed clarity in identifying and addressing students' needs for both teachers and students. I think teachers now really have a stronger understanding of the why and the how behind reading development, and we are all really more equipped with effective tools and strategies to provide effective instruction in literacy. While these shifts may seem subtle, they're really proving to be really driving indicators of student success in literacy. And I think specifically at McPherson, this work has really allowed me to kind of step back and look at our system holistically. We really had the opportunity to look at data and really start to understand some root causes that we were seeing in our literacy instruction and how we can really make the greatest impact at McPherson for our specific site. I think one shift that we have made is implementing a walk to read model for kindergarten through 2nd grade students, where students are grouped based off specific literacy needs identified using a phonics screener. This model has really allowed us to be highly intentional about what we're doing in our instruction, while also really providing that targeted instruction at a much greater capacity. Students are monitored every 6 weeks using this program that we've implemented, and we are meeting regularly to adjust as needed. And as a result, we've really increased consistency across our literacy instruction.
That's great.
And really ensuring that all of our students are receiving direct, explicit, the phonics instruction that they need at the supports that they need to. We're really now 2.5 years in, really beginning to see some meaningful results from these systematic shifts that we've made and reinforcing the importance of intentional data-driven literacy practices.
That's great. Well, we're excited to celebrate, witness and celebrate that progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then speaking of shifts, can you describe for yourself a specific lesson or a unit where you yourself took a risk with a new strategy? And then what did you learn from that experience? That can be regardless of the outcome, positive or otherwise.
Totally.
Tell us about your learning there.
This happened recently to me, actually. So I have a very clear memory of this right now. And it's really given me a moment of pause and reflection in my own practice. I'm currently working on the high impact instructional team, where we're really learning new routines and strategies around this gradual release of responsibility. And as part of this work, I really wanted to take it upon myself to practice these strategies in real time in a classroom. So I went to a 2nd grade classroom and did a math lesson. I haven't taught math in a few years, so I was already really stepping outside of my comfort zone in this moment. And I really wanted to be intentional about attempting to perform these HIT strategies in real time. So as the lesson unfolded, however, several things really started to happen that were not working in my favor. I think students were really unclear about what I was asking of them. And I rushed through the lesson, skipping really critical steps in this process. And as this really started to unfold, student engagement really started to decline and behavior started to escalate. Despite these signs, I really just pushed through the lesson and wanted to complete the steps of it. And at the end, despite this 30-minute lesson that had endured, I realized I was mostly just talking at students with very minimal learning and engagement happening with student learning. So after really sitting with this defeat, and upon some reflection, I really realized the root of where the problem lied in this lesson was the lack of clarity. And I think both on my part and on students' parts. I was not clear about what I identified for what I wanted student outcomes to be. And they weren't clear about what they needed to achieve by the end of the lesson. Instead, I just focused really just getting through the lesson and each component rather than just being intentional about what the learning outcome was. And then in this moment really served as a reminder, knowing exactly what I want students to know and how intentional the lesson needs to be in order for students to be clear about what they want their learning outcomes to be as well.
You know, Katy, this is so great, this example, because I think you're really unveiling for our listeners how reflective and self-aware teachers have to be, right? It's like you have to invest in planning lessons, then you have to do the execution, and then after lessons, you also have to reflect and figure out, you know, did that go well? Did it not? And I love how you've illuminated that teacher clarity around what those outcomes are is absolutely critical in order for students to be clear.
Definitely.
And I also appreciate how you've highlighted 2 professional development experiences that the district is providing to cadres of teachers across the district, LETRS when you were talking about literacy, and then you being part of our high impact instructional team where teachers are coming together to test some strategies that we want to scale across all of our classrooms that prove to be high impact for student learning. And you just, you know, again, rolling up your sleeves, getting in there, trying things out, reflecting, and then figuring out how you need to make adjustments in order to ensure students are more successful. So thank you so much for that. I love that focus on the process, student outcomes, the need for clarity. It really leads me to a question or thinking about how we measure success. Like, how do we know when our students are successful? What are the quiet wins in your classroom that signal a student is truly succeeding?
Definitely. When I think about student achievement and success, obviously data plays a very pivotal role in that process in order to understand really where we can start with student support. However, I really feel like true success goes beyond performing well on a test or an essay or a performance task, but for me is really reflected when students are taking ownership of their own learning. I really recently experienced this at my site, which really captures this idea perfectly. I was walking across campus with a student and we were kind of just talking casually with each other, and I had asked him how his reading class was that morning. And he began explaining to me about the long O digraph and how it was spelled, the new words that he was using.
I don't even know what that means, but it's a long O digraph.
And all the
You didn't have letters
I didn't have letters training. I don't know what that is.
Yes.
Well, he could tell you all about it. He was so excited. And then he was so excited about all the words he was reading in his new story that he was started, and how he was just really doing this independently. And while the student clearly had mastered the skill, there was no question of that. What really stood out to me is that he was owning his learning. He was generally excited about this vowel pattern that he had learned in his reading class, and how he was applying it on his own. And I think moments like this obviously demonstrate student achievement, but also really reveal a deep understanding and the intrinsic motivation and a personal sense of why they're doing their learning. And I think this kind of success is really powerful because no one told him he did it right. No one told him he was doing a good job, but it really came from the student recognizing that their own growth and their own sense of pride in their learning.
It's amazing. It's so powerful when they know they got it,
Totally.
right? And
yeah.
that cultivates confidence and motivation.
Yeah,
to get the next thing. And that's the power of learning, right?
Absolutely.
You want students to get hungry around their learning. And so I'm glad to hear that you're having those kinds of wins.
Yeah, that agency, the ownership, that mindset, so critical. And as you mentioned earlier, when we first started talking, classrooms are full of students with so many different backgrounds and varying skill sets. So how do you make sure that every student, regardless of their starting point, feels confident as a writer, reader, mathematician, whatever it is they're learning? How do you really make sure that they're going in with that positivity?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. I think as educators, it's really important just to meet students where they're at in your classroom.
Right.
In a single classroom, we often have 25 plus students that are walking in your door with a wide range of background knowledge, experiences, and academic skill already. And I think when this reality is really combined with the pressure to cover a full year's worth of content, learning can really quickly become overwhelming and burdensome. And I think meeting students at their current level of knowledge and skill allows them to develop a deeper understanding and greater confidence in their learning. I think it provides teachers with valuable insight about what next steps they need to take in order to support students as well. When this approach is really paired with intentional feedback and clear growth goals across content areas, it fosters that motivation and sets meaningful expectations for students in their own improvement. Each student really enters that classroom with strengths and existing knowledge. And I think recognizing that and really building upon that foundation is essential for really meaningful learning for students. I think when educators really honor students that where students are and what they bring to the classroom, there as a starting point, learning becomes much more empowering and meaningful and attainable for students.
Well, that's amazing. That's so important to name. I just want to take a moment and pause and thank you, our teachers at McPherson, our teachers across the district, because there is so much complexity when we think about the diversity in our classrooms, on so many different levels. And it's a challenge every day.
Every day.
And I love that you've provided just this fundamental kind of mindset and tool that can ground teachers to just think about something very simple, meeting students where they are, right? Meeting students where they are. So that's fantastic, Katy. Thank you so much. Looking at the connection between policy and practice, I'm often working on district-wide initiatives. I'm working with the team to figure out resource allocation and, looking at, at a strategic level, working with our board to prioritize what's going to move us forward as a school district. From your vantage point in the classroom, what is one district support or resource that has truly moved the needle for students?
Yeah, when I think about the various initiatives and supporting the strategic plan and vision for NVUSD, there are many resources that are already guiding this work. And however, I think the resource and learning that has really had the greatest impact on both educators and students and as our system as a whole is the LETRS
training. You're a fan.
I am.
Katy, some teachers in talking to, because we have hundreds of them trained right now, have said that I should have had this in my credential program.
It should have
Do you feel that way?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell us more.
Yeah, definitely. This intensive 2-year personal learning experience really focused on literacy has profoundly changed with my understanding of literacy instruction and the work that we're currently doing at our site. I really don't think we could have had the results at our site that we're having without this professional learning. As I mentioned earlier, this professional development has brought clarity and purpose to how and why behind effective learning and around literacy and the effective instruction that we need to provide kids for their reading development. I think in addition, collaborating with teachers within the cohort that I had during my LETRS across different sites was so impactful because it really fostered a shared language that we all started to have and has provided consistency around the practices and the strategies that we're implementing in the classroom system-wide. And I think having been a part of this district for the past 12 years, I can confidently say that this district-supported professional development has been the most impactful in building literacy capacity and supporting implementation of effective research-based practices system-wide at NVUSD. And I think that this resource has greatly supports the components around the strategic plan and vision.
And Katy, I just want to pull that thread a little bit. What's different about the LETRS training? Because lots of investments around professional development have happened over the last 12 years. What is it about, what are the elements of the LETRS training specifically that make it feel worth your time?
Definitely.
That make it actionable, that you're taking the learning and it's actually making impact in the classroom?
Yeah.
Well, can you just briefly describe that?
Through my learning, it really gave me a lot of reflection of how students were comprehending the learning, the teaching that we were giving students. You know, it gave me a better understanding how students were navigating their own learning of reading. I think in addition, there, like I said, very subtle shifts that we're making in the classroom that are promoting that more direct, explicit instruction for students and really addressing the needs that they have. I think this professional development also was a direct learning to application in the classroom.
Got it.
I think that I can say for many teachers, especially at our site, we went through this learning and the training every week, and you could practice it in your classroom the very next day.
Got it. So it wasn't a one and done.
Nope.
It was over 2 years.
Absolutely.
It sounds like it gave you knowledge that maybe you didn't have before.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of had it, but this made it really, really clear. Understanding reading development and the fundamentals of that. And it sounds like getting training in these small chunks and then implementing that in the classroom and doing cycles of that over the course of a 2-year period. It was deep. It sounds like really deep professional development.
Very deep. And I think it's still ongoing. We're still meeting with our cohorts. This is the 3rd year. I did it for 2 years now. A year out of it, we're still meeting within our cohorts.
You're connected.
You're connected
with
across,
other teachers
across the district, talking about what's working in classrooms and what's not, different strategies that people are using. So I think it's really been a great groundwork for consistency among all the sites at NVUSD.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much, Katy. We really appreciate your time with us today. This has been such a rich conversation. And we are going to, of course, give you the final word. As we approach the end of the school year and with summer starting, what's one piece of advice you would give to a student just as they transition from one year to the next and go into the summer? What's some advice you might give them?
As we approach the summer, I really hope students take a moment to just honor all the hard work they've put in this year and really feel proud of themselves. I encourage them to think back about where they were at the beginning of the year and the growth that they've made academically, emotionally, personally, and really celebrate those accomplishments. I don't think being a student is an easy job by any means. And I think that I would want students to know that their efforts and their perseverance and their dedication does not go unnoticed by educators. I think as we move into the summer, it's time to now rest and relax and enjoy a well-deserved summer break.
That's great. And how about reading?
You read a book.
Yes,
Always.
always read.
Always says the literacy coach, right? And, you know, I love that answer, Katy, because it's so clear in this discussion with you over the last 20 minutes or so that you are a reflective practitioner. And I love that you're prompting students to be reflective about their own learning too. So thank you so much for your honesty, your expertise, and most of all, everything that you do for our students here in Napa Valley Unified School District.
Yeah. And thank you to our listeners. We look forward to sharing more valuable insights with you on future episodes of the NVUSD Future in Focus podcast.
And remember, until next time, keep being
future ready.